Welcome to GITEX Insights. I am joined by Pfaelzer, the Senior Vice President and General Manager for EMEA at Veeam. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here.
So if you can just kick us off with sharing some insights as to what Veeam is highlighting at GITEX Global this year.
Yeah, so what we are highlighting in essential is the whole topic of how secure can you be as a company. We call that with the concept of radical resilience, which I'll get to in a second. But essentially, when you look back at the history of where Veeam is coming from, we've had one product, which is backing up data from virtual environments. Now, moving fast forward and look at all the economy where we are, and look at the state where we are of everything data, we want to show you, and we can prove that with various examples, of how we can keep you as resilient as you humanly can be with everything data, no matter where your data resides, no matter where you have it, and no matter what you want to do with your data and where you want to move it. So we have this whole plethora that we're showing together with all of our partners at the booth, because we are just the software, but there's so many partners around it, and we're showcasing you this whole story of how to be resilient at the booth.
Okay. So obviously you mentioned the concept of radical data resilience. Can you just talk a little bit more about this, and is this the next evolution of data protection?
Well, I think so, both sides, because one is, yes, it's the evolution of data protection, because in the past, what you did is you were backing up data just for the sake of, if something fails, I need to gain access back. Now, data resilient means you need to be prepared for whatever can happen. Is it a natural disaster? Is it someone trying to attack your data? Is it someone trying to steal something out of the company? That's where data is the most important thing, and data is the most valuable asset of any company in today's society. So radical resilience for us is a couple of things that we are talking with. Resilient is one, is saying it's not only making sure that you have a backup and you can get back to it, it's the matter of time on how fast you can restore your data from wherever it technically is. Radical resilient also means to say, if something would happen today, how can you make sure that your production is back live and that you can make use of the data? But radical resilience also makes sure that we're working with the customers to say, who of our partners do we need to pull in to make sure that you're not only having this concept of a software that helps to restore, but how can we make sure that your total environment, where you store your data, where you produce your data, where you keep your virtual environments, and where you're moving to, be it on cloud, is it on premise, whatever it is, how can we make sure that we are giving you the best environment you can have to make sure you're resilient?
Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, looking at the Veeam business in general, especially here in the region, how important is this market for Veeam?
It's super important because one thing, it's an absolutely, as you know from probably all the people you interview and everyone you talk to, it's an absolutely thriving region. And when you would ask me, because I'm responsible for all of Europe, Middle East and Africa, where would I put my bets on where the next phase of growth is coming from? I would always say it's Middle East. And that's also reflected in the resource planning of a company, that's reflected in where we want to put our people moving forward, and which customers are out there that need our support and we can support ideally. So for us, that's a high growth region, which is why it's very important for us to be here and connecting with all the customers and partners that we have.
Okay, thanks. How does this platform align with Veeam's overall growth strategy?
I think it's great for us because one thing is, this is not an isolated show that just brings the topic of only data. This show brings everything IT together and basically showing that IT is the lifeblood of every company. So this is why GITEX is important. First of all, the second piece is, here we find everyone we need to talk to and we want to talk to, and we can approach all the people that we haven't been able to talk to so far. So this is like, a big coming together of all the industry, which is why it makes it interesting for all of us. And everybody is, of course, approaching, all the companies that are out there in the region. So for us, GITEX is the biggest event that we can attend in the region, but also outside of the region. And as we talked before, I'm coming from Germany, and in the past we've had this big other trade show called CeBIT back in the days. And I think GITEX is the modern version of a CeBIT plus everything extra that it delivers. So for us, it's super important, which is why we've been here many years in a row, and we will for sure continue to be so the next years.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much for your time, team.
Thank you so much for having me. Enjoy the day.